It seems that making red salsa is a simple process that repeats the same steps over and over. You just have to change the pepper for spice, and you can try different dried chilies or peppers to add different tones to your salsa. For this one, of course, I had to go and get tomatoes. I know, there's a lot of different types of tomatoes. Doesn't matter, you can use whatever you have available. Onions are a must. Yes, there are different types of onions, but that's also the same idea. As long as you rinse it, you can use any type of onion. You need garlic, it's a must in every salsa, but you decide how much garlic you need. Cilantro, if you can handle it. Salt, because it makes food better. Butter, but you can also use olive oil, vegetable oil, or avocado oil, or any other fancy oil. We just need something to fry these vegetables in. Limes, there needs to be a little bit of sourness. You can do this with vinegars, but I prefer lime. Like I said before, you need something to bring in the spice and the heat to your salsa. In Canada, it's very easy to get jalapeños, so that's what I use. There are many other types of hot, spicy chiles you can use. I use jalapeños and mixed it up with habanero because I had some at the house. It is optional, and I did see in many different videos, you can sometimes add pepper or you can add cumin. Experiment. By far the hardest ingredient you're going to have to find is the dried spice or the dried chili. You can use guajillo, you can use cayenne, you can use árbol, you can use whatever you have. I have puya, that's what I used. Now that you have all your ingredients, let's go cook. The name of this channel is I'm Not an Expert Yet. Because of this, I know that my current cutting techniques are horrible, and I hope to get better with time, but I'm not there yet, so I'm not going to make you suffer by watching me do a horrible job at cutting these vegetables in real time. I will show you this though. When you cut your peppers, you can control the heat of your pepper by removing not just the seeds, but also removing the veins. Most of the heat hides in the veins, so with a spoon and at the sink or at a trash can, you can remove it very simply. If you haven't done this before, or if you don't deal with peppers very often, it would be a smart idea to wear gloves for any pepper handling part. Last time I played around with habaneros, I was suffering for 2 whole days. I felt like I had burned my hands off. And when it comes to your dried spices, it doesn't have to be super complicated. All you have to do is remove the top, and some people like to leave the seeds in there, others don't. So in here, I remove the seeds of some of them, about half. The Abuelas and Señoras from YouTube taught me one valuable thing. You boil your dried spices or dried chilies so that the skins become soft, and then you get the most flavor out of them, and then you can use that water to put it in your blender or your food processor if you want the consistency of your salsa to be more runny. Boil for about 10 minutes. To begin the cooking process, you have to preheat your pan, otherwise you can't really cook. So I preheated mine to medium to make sure I can control the burning rate of everything. If I burn something way too much, it ain't gonna taste good. But we are trying to char most of these vegetables. So first, with my butter, letting it heat up and not letting it burn, I add my onions into my pan, move them around, make sure I get some of that butter everywhere, and then I covered them because I don't want my kitchen to turn into a huge mess. The butter was going all over the place. But you don't have to cover it if you don't want to. You want to keep a close eye on the onions, flip them a few times if needed, and what we're aiming here to do is to get that darkness around the onions so that that taste, that charred, smoky taste, comes over into our red salsa. So it really is up to you to decide how charred or how smoky you want your salsa to taste. As you can see here, what I did with mine, bigger chunks means medium amount of smokiness and charness. But you can do it more. You can cut these pieces into smaller pieces and get more smokiness into your salsa. The same applies to your tomato, and the same will apply to your jalapeño. So just repeat the steps as you did with the onion, and keep a close eye on everything so that it doesn't go overboard, and then your salsa just tastes like a bunch of burned stuff. You can see that one of my tomatoes is peeling, and that's a great sign. That means that most of these tomatoes, if not all of them, are now ready to be taken off the fire. Look for that sign when you're making your salsa. And do remember this, salsas can come in many varieties and very many different styles. What I'm doing here is a charred or sauteed salsa, but there is also a boiled salsa, and there's also a raw salsa, which you would mash and mix by hand. So the concept is really what I'm trying to show here. I had forgotten that I had not charred my peppers, so I had to clean my pan, remove the burned butter, and do that very important step. Saute those peppers. Get those spices going! Mixing your salsa is pretty straightforward. You can use a blender, you can use a food processor like mine, or you can mix it by hand. It's up to you. But in my case, I did do it in a specific order because I know that with this food processor and the blades that I'm using, it doesn't do a great job mixing it. So I need to put in the hard stuff first and the wetter things at the bottom, and then my boiled dried spices I can then put at the top, and hoping that those dried spices will be cut up nicely. I have found that with my food processor, at times the peel or the skins of these dried spices, whether it be guajillo or these dried red peppers, it's just not cut, and they can be very uncomfortable to chew on by your guests. So do whatever you gotta do to make sure you can chop those skins nicely. And if you got some tips for me to learn, please put them in the comments because I have no clue what I'm doing. Generally, you want to add your peppers and your lime and your salt and your black pepper or cumin towards the end of the blending process, because then you have greater control over the final taste of the red salsa. So try it out, experiment. I used half a lime for this. I could have used a little bit more. I also used about a teaspoon of salt, could have used a little bit more. And cilantro, as you see, just a little. But I have added more, I have added none at times. It's up to you. I didn't realize the camera shakes when this thing is on. Oh, that's funny. Oh, it shakes so much. You want to see it?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Make salsa. Like dancing salsa. There you have it. The finished product. I didn't have to add any water to this process, and this is what I came out with. It tasted really good. But as you'll see, it's not always like that. Sometimes we make mistakes and the salsa tastes horrific. That's what you'll see in the next video, which you can click on right here.